Clara was exhausted, 12 hours of shifts behind her, rain soaking her scrubs as she drove home. Then the highway lit up with the aftermath of a crash. A motorcycle overturned on the shoulder, chrome twisted, a rider motionless. Without thinking, Clara pulled over. She knelt in the downpour and found a thin, rasping breath. Training and instinct took over. Check a pulse, apply pressure, keep the airway open. Cars streamed past, some slowing, most keeping their distance. Someone shouted for her to leave. She stayed. She whispered, "Stay with me," pressed harder, counted breaths, refused to let the life under her hands slip away. When the ambulance cut through the storm and the paramedics took over, one of them looked at her like she'd done something fierce. "You kept him alive," he said. Clara stepped back into the wet night, hands and arms stained with blood and rain, the image lodged in her memory. Years went by, hospital corridors and new emergencies filled her days, but Clara never stopped wondering about that rider. Did he recover? Did he ride again? The questions lingered like a small, persistent H. One late night, taking a familiar shortcut, Clara found herself confronted in a narrow alley by three men who assumed a lone nurse would be an easy target. Panic tightened her chest. Then the roar of motorcycles split the dark. Bikes poured into the alley like thunder. A man dismounted slowly. He was older. A long scar lined one cheek, leather molded to his frame. Up close, his face was weathered and quiet. When their eyes met, something in Clara flinched, and then recognized it. It was the same look she'd glimpsed through the rain that night years before. He stepped between her and the threat, and the three men scattered. "You didn't leave him," he said, not as accusation but as fact. When she said she'd only done what any nurse would, he shook his head. "You stayed when everyone else walked by," he told her. "That's me." He introduced himself as Marcus King and explained that he led a brotherhood now. He thanked her, then made a promise in the only language he knew, loyalty. If she was ever in danger again, she would never stand alone. At first, Marcus's protection felt small and steady, a bike parked half a block away, a shadow at the curb. It brought a quiet relief to Clara, but it also narrowed the world around her. Colleagues exchanged looks in the staff room, neighbors crossed the street. Gratitude twisted quickly into rumor. The threats didn't stop. An anonymous black sedan tried to run her down. A knife was shoved through her apartment door with a note that said she had to choose leave him or watch everything burn. Smoke and flames eventually licked the hallway of her building, and her mother, Evelyn, lay coughing and weak inside. Smoke closed around them. Clara felt hopeless. Then the door blew inward and Marcus and his brothers charged through the heat and smoke. They moved with purpose and without hesitation, carrying Clara and her mother out as if they were the most precious cargo. Standing in the flashing light and clamor outside, Clara watched the man she had once saved repay that debt with action. Marcus's loyalty proved practical more than theatrical. He and his brothers did ordinary, necessary things, posting bikes outside late at night, watching the building while Clara worked, fixing locks, sitting quietly on the stoop. Those small, steady gestures were as important as any dramatic rescue. They offered protection and a kind of care Clara had never expected to receive. But there were costs. Associating with a brotherhood of bikers brought danger and judgment. Some people whispered that it changed how they saw her. Marcus's own circle bristled at the distraction of protecting an outsider. Brotherhood demands loyalty, and it tests boundaries. Still, Marcus argued that kindness deserved more than mere thanks. It deserved action. He stood his ground, and his brothers widened the circle of those they watched over. Between alarms and long shifts, Clara and Marcus learned the quieter work of healing. She watched him learn small domestic rituals he'd never known, making coffee, carrying grocery bags, learning to be gentle in ways that surprised him. He learned that debts didn't have to be repaid with violence. Sometimes they were repaid in presence and quiet steadiness. When danger rose again, they rose together. When the street settled after another ugly skirmish, Marcus's hand was bruised and his voice raw, but his promise still held. Slowly, The bond between them deepened into something beyond protection, a companionable tenderness, the sort born of shared danger and repeated, unshowy care. Clara discovered that saving a life doesn't end when the heartbeat steadies. The echo of that choice can return in unexpected forms. In the roar of engines outside a dark apartment, in the steady weight of a hand that carries you through smoke and fear. Their story became a quiet reminder of what it means to answer when someone needs you. That humanity is not defined by uniform or club, but by whether we step in for another person. Clara had stayed with a stranger in the rain. Years later, that stranger stayed with her. In the space between respirators and leather jackets, they found something like love, or at least the kind of loyalty that heals. If this touched you, share a moment when someone's kindness found its way back into your life. We'll be here for more stories of courage, mercy, and second chances.